While we're on the subject of racism and the concept of a cartoon horse show, let's talk about Steelhooves' pre-war racism in these logs with Midnight Shower.
This is...
His racism is very interesting because he's sent to sort of police this town shortly after the assassination attempt on Princess Celestia by a zebra. And there comes a point in this C plot, let's say, where these I think these zebra it's Steelhooves' subordinates like sexually assaulting some zebra mare. Yeah. And he like beats the hell out of his subordinates, not out of like support for the zebra, but out of this sense of inherent justice. But he still says, "Boy, I hate ziggers."
Right. Yeah, that.
I mean, there's almost shades of like Japanese internment about the whole Zebra Town situation.
Yeah.
And it's god.
Well, let's. I've actually got this section pulled up. There and to think that this entire place was not even a concept not so long ago, but then there was no real need for segregation until the zebras massacred our children at Littlehorn.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, there's also like the equation of race and nationality, which is sort of an unfortunate like inheritance from just the way fantasy races tend to work, where it's like all of the people of this, race or ethnicity or species all have the one country, and that's them, and that sort of identifies the actions of their leaders with all of them in a way that's a little like stronger from like a surface level read than it would be if, say, there was more than one zebra country, and then it just kind of allows people to blame individual random zebras in Equestria for the actions of a foreign government.
Well, which is interesting though, because like Basic was saying, that really pings of Japanese internment during World War II.
Yeah. And
one of the other sides of that too is that like much like the Japanese internments during World War II, at one point, that Midnight Shower says something along the lines of like how he's like talking about, well, in your homeland, and the zebras are like, bitch, I live here.
It's
Equestria is my home. The fuck are you on?
It's like, oh my god. It's I mean, just as to keep it vaguely lighthearted in this trying time, it's like people asking Irish Americans about like Irish mythology, and it's just like, do you have what? I bring this up just because I've had odd experiences with Irish Americans where like when they realize that I'm Irish from Ireland and live in Ireland, I can look out my window and see Ireland. They say I'm Irish.
I'm green and pretty.
I'm in town. There's only one sheep. They say I'm Irish too, and it's just like,
no, you're not.
not in a way that like matters to most of. I mean, it could matter to you as far as like cultural heritage goes, but like only what has been told to you by your family. There is nothing about you might have nothing to do with it with Ireland, and
which actually I think is a kind of a uniquely American perspective, because you really don't see that with other nations. Like the U.S. is like, well, I'm American, but because most of us, like most of the at least the European and Caucasian populations are concerned, have actually all of them, all of the Caucasian populations concerned, we've emigrated here from somewhere. Be it Ireland or Italy or England, or in the case of my family, most of Eastern Europe, after, engaging in horse thievery, cuckoldry, and then sometimes horse thievery and cuckoldry at the same time. My ancestors are Roma, if that makes any sense,
Oh,
and I really
okay.
wish that they weren't stereotypical Roma.
Ah.
But like, if you pick every bad stereotype you have about that particular group of travelers, that was my family, and we've thus continued it since then, including my aunt burning down her house.
Oh, damn, okay.
Every time I'm like, my mom was like, no, we're Swedish, and my grandmother was like, no, we come from the Roma, and I'm like, could we not be bad racial stereotypes, because there's other things that are parts of this culture that we could be
Yeah,
but basically
yeah.
I
I do see what you mean about like because obviously we have immigration into Europe as well, and we do have like minority populations. It's different in that it's not most of people, but also you get this thing where after a while, people don't like. It is like not as much of a thing as in America, where you just like hold on to that idea of like another nationality from multiple generations. It's like it's like you have like say like third generation Pakistani British people, and they're like, I'm English, I'm just English,
it's called assimilation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like their culture isn't gone, but it's like they would introduce themselves as English,
Right, exactly. It's like the cultural identity. I mean, obviously your culture is still there, but yeah, like what Basic was saying with assimilation is you assimilate into the dominant culture and go, well, this is what I am. I may have some practices that aren't necessarily dominant culture because I'm still part of a minority population. However, at the same time, I'm this is my identity.
Yeah. So it's just like so now I'm just like imagining it's like Midnight Shower, just like going up to like Sadiq Khan or someone, just and just being like, hey, what's going on in Pakistan? And he's just like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I can see why Midnight Shower got a frosty reception.
Yeah, well, because then that's basically what she was doing, and like, I mean, and unfortunately, like again, the parallels to what happened in the U.S. during World War II with the Japanese is that's how it was. Is that unfortunately, like, you had people that would be like, well, I can't believe that you're doing this.
It's like
and then you have Japanese soldiers that are like, yeah, it's kind of shitty that those people did that. Good thing I'm an American. You twat.
Oh boy.
Diving a bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have something else?
I was just gonna ask if we had more to cover on this topic, but you were about to jump in with something.
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say diving a bit more into Steelhooves' disposition towards.
Oh yeah,
this
because we were going to talk about Steelhooves, and we've just been keep talking about Midnight Shower. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
This is a good jumping point to get into his disposition towards zebras, not only in the pre-war timeline with Midnight Shower, but also the Apple memory orb that they find in Camelot. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, Steelhooves, to me, other than Calamity, is the most fascinating character in the story, disbarring his casual racism of zebras.
Is it really casual?
It's not really casual. It's a very fiery race.
Midnight had a.
It's a very fiery zebra.
I just thought I'd ask that.
Yeah. It's a very fiery hatred of zebras.
Yeah. Like when they first rescue Zenith, he is not comfortable with her at all.
Yeah. Which is interesting that he's held on to this prejudice for 200 years without once being challenged on it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
his entire life.
I mean, Equestria is probably not the most challenging. It's not an environment that's going to naturally challenge his assumptions about zebras very much.
Yeah.
They've got all this, they didn't exactly send someone around after the bombs to clear up all the propaganda.
Yeah. But I do love the memory orb where he kills Zecora. I don't enjoy Steelhooves killing Zecora, but I love just how angry he gets, and he hints at like how betrayed he felt, because he was on this path of trying to open up his heart and his mind to accepting zebras, and even alludes to the fact that he was there when Zecora like came to Applejack's house and they shared a table at dinner together.
Yeah, it does feel like he was on the road to like learning and growing, and then this misunderstanding just kind of threw all that in the bin.
And it's because of that I just love Steelhooves and how damaged he is, and how you allow. This is something I relate to a lot. It is the burning, blind anger when it comes to like a misunderstanding, and then feeling great regret afterwards, because it's. I think it was at some point in Volume 4, Little Pip admits to Steelhooves that, like, no, Zecora was never a traitor. She was contracted by the Ministry of Awesome and Morale to be a spy. And then,
she's trying to get close to the Kaiser.
Yep, and once Pip tells him that, he goes really quiet, taking that in, and there's not a whole lot of insight into what goes through his mind, but his silence is very telling.
It's that glorious, precious substance that is so hard to find in this story.
Yeah.
Subtext.
And that's exactly why I love Steelhooves, because of how well K-Cat handles his inner turmoil without alluding to it too much, but without being too... without beating you over the head with it, I should say.
Yeah, it's like we're allowed to like stew on it. It's like, well, what is he thinking? He's had a lot to think about.
At times it's very hard to read Steelhooves because he is a fanatic stoicist.
I mean, I guess that yeah. I suppose I'm just complaining about how everything else is so over-explained that it's just like, oh wow, someone who actually like gives me room to breathe about the thinking, and then Little Pip fills that void anyway. God damn, will you shut up?
Right.
But yeah,
No, yeah, you were saying?
Oh, I think I was just gonna have like a tangent point about like how the presence of ghouls also just kind of complicates the whole race discussion, because you do actually have people who were alive 200 years ago and were racist as shit 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how much has their opinion changed?
Yeah, it's.
I guess Steelhooves is our test case for that. It's just like.
And Steelhooves' racism about ghouls is also really interesting to think about, because he's very overcompensating about his hatred towards ghouls, which I think he puts up as a front to mostly to gauge other people's thoughts on what they think about ghouls. And that's really all I have to say on that.
Yeah.
I was hoping some of you might say something, but if you don't, that's fine.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
I suppose I hadn't been thinking that much about ghouls this volume, just because there's just so much other stuff to cover.
Yeah.